So first, a couple notes. I do hope this is an interactive session. If you guys got a question going along the way, don't need to wait till the end. Just feel free to chime in, and we'll stop and get it going. So I know that most of you guys know what Carhartt is, but I think who they are is very, I think, part and parcel of the decisions that we've made. So I want to do a quick review on some stuff. Again, I'm Aaron, but if you don't know Carhartt, this is who Carhartt is quintessentially. Anytime you see from history places where people are skinning their knuckles and doing dangerous stuff and really building the foundational pieces that made our country, whether it was in the farm fields or on the railroads or in skyscrapers here in New York, they were probably decked out in full Carhartt. That was a really common thing. When Rosie the Riveter stepped up and put on her overalls and went out to her in real life, she was based on a character that was in Ypsilanti, Michigan, at a factory where they converted. They used to be making Fords, and then they started making bombers. And you guys probably know who doesn't? Does anyone not? Or who knows the story of Rosie the Riveter? Great character. If you don't, go look it up because it's a really inspiring story. But she suited up in Carhartt, and she was wearing the same thing that the people who were working on the railroads in the 1800s were working on. And I mentioned that to say that, for about 100 and some years, we've effectively been the people who are a little bit unchanging. We have, anytime you've ever seen a movie where there's badass guys doing badass things, you're probably seeing someone with a Carhartt logo on them. I think this is an interesting slide in that here's Aquaman, and there's Batman, and there's Matthew McConaughey all wearing the brand. It's just a great slide to see. But those are the types of people that are wearing our brand, and that's what that means. And that's what that's come to mean from a brand image perspective. And so what does that mean as it relates to digital? As you might guess, a 127-year-old brand, still family-owned, makers of historic and iconic workwear, are struggling to modernize. And let me paint the picture of who that means. And you guys probably have similar stories, but a lot of Carhartt is sold by mom and pop shops in one-stoplight towns. I grew up in a one-stoplight town, loved it there, would love to go back. There's not a lot of e-com jobs in one-stoplight towns. But when I go and talk to those people, they don't really like me. And here's why. Because they think of me, who runs the .com site, as the guy who's bringing another competitor right into the store with them. They get very nervous, and I talk to them about, well, what are the buying patterns of the people that are coming to your store? And they say things like, well, everyone comes in. Joe from the Rish farm has been coming in, and he's been buying the same types of T-shirts and the same type of coats for 100 years. Actually, funny story. We had a guy last year. We did a campaign on. This guy was 100 years old. I filmed a bunch of people who were 100 years old and still working. Usually they were working on farms. And there's just one guy in this interview who said, I've been wearing Carhartt my whole life, and it's great. And the interviewer asked him, well, how did you learn about Carhartt? And he said, my grandpa told me about it. It's just great that he's 100 years old and listened to it. That's how far back it goes. But the fan base is intensely loyal. And though we make hundreds of things, and we make things that I feel compete with Under Armour and Climacool and the things that are happening in modern brands, we're really sorta just known for four things. We're known for like beanies and bibs and hats and jackets. But I think the key learning that we got from when I started doing Carhartt stuff about 1.5 years ago was that Carhartt means different things to different people. And the modern expectation, which I think is harsh but unfair, and I would bet that you guys feel this too, is that even in that small town America where there's one stoplight and people are working on farms, guess what? They've been on Amazon as well. So the burden of being as good or having customer expectations that are Amazon-like are the same for us at Carhartt in an environment where some of the people there aren't, super pro digital and have been making the same, literally cutting the same patterns on the same tables in the same factories in Tennessee and Kentucky for 100 years. The same expectations are there. And the core expectation that they have ultimately is that whenever that customer gives you a bit of information, like I like a certain jacket, or I like fishing stuff, or I like things that are in red, that same expectation, which has been set by Amazon, is set upon us. And the customer expectation is that we listen and do something with that. But we're not going to do the same thing with everyone. So when we talk about omni-channel, what we really talk about is this other concept that I'll get to in just a second. But there's where we are now, there's omni-channel, and then there's this next thing that we're calling omni-personal. And omni-channel, this is sort of the table stakes of what I think of as possibly the most overused buzzword in current blog state, which is omni-channel. But it's leveraging pieces of data from a transactional standpoint, any place that your customer can interact. You guys are probably having conversations, anyone who has an e-commerce setup are probably having conversations that involve these things like BOPUS and ROPUS and endless aisle and shipping to your home and abandoned cart emails and web galleries and ordering via customer service and preserving items in cart across devices, and redeeming or getting loyalty points and redeeming anywhere. But you guys didn't come all this way to hear those things. You guys probably know those things. Those are easy to find. The next level of this that you have, if you're going to go through these things, what you want to do, or what we would like to do, and I think that you guys should be considering it, is being omni-personal. I'll tell you what, the omni-personal challenge is not an easy one. I think of those two things, the transactional side of taking all that information and the story side of leveraging all that information, as a really odd couple. If you think that transactional side, it's really ugly. It's remembering people's data. It's all the Facebook scares me because they know everything that my mom had for breakfast and they know every single thing about me. But there's this other side where it's kind of a romantic side, like the fact that I like fishing and I like doing farming and stuff like that. Anyone know who Jason Momoa is? He was, right. There's a video on our site with his shirt off, by the way, for the ladies or anyone interested, that it talks about how he loves being a father and he loves working hard and people don't work with their hands anymore and he's doing these things. And I picture it's people like Jason Momoa that tell this really romantic story of the brand, and people come and engage with that. And then, and if they knew behind the scenes that we're tracking everything, there's a really kind of an ugly thing that you have to mesh those two things together. And I think in my mind's eye, I like to think about, well, what would that actually look like in real life? I think this is the representation of the couple that those two, story and commerce, would look like in real life. Right, no truth to the rumor. That's my prom photo. All right. So those two things are platform-oriented projects that we have at Carhartt that we talk about. When we talk about two concepts, we talk about synchronizing and we talk about personalizing. And so with that, let me tell you a quick story. So last year, and I think this will be important for this room specifically. Last year, we worked with, so at the end of 2016, actually, we worked with a guy named, and I got to look his name up. His name is Jordan Lee. Does anyone know who Jordan Lee is? Which I think proves the point that I'm about to make here. Jordan Lee is the Michael Jordan of fishing right now. Who watches a lot of fishing? Who caught every episode and a minute of ESPN's coverage of Bassmaster Classic? That's right, no one in this room did. But a lot of people did. So we had this moment, a really interesting brand win moment where we got Jordan Lee as a sponsored athlete for us. And the Carhartt's all over his boat and it's all over his truck, and he stops and he gives like, hey, this is the jig that I used, and this is the bait, and this is the jacket I was wearing when I won and so we got him in 2016, and then he won the Bassmaster Classic, and he's only like 26 or 27. It's $1 million prize, it's a really big deal. A bunch of people came to our site because they got so frothed up, like, oh man, Carhartt now makes fishing stuff. A lot of people didn't even know that. That's an awesome story. They came and they showed us, effectively in their history, that they liked fishing stuff. Those people self-selected and came to our site and said, with their browsing patterns and with the content they engage with, I like fishing stuff. And so we showed them fishing stuff. But the next year, Jordan Lee did what is, and again, because you guys probably aren't fishing guys or Bassmaster people, I'll say this is amazing. He won back-to-back titles. That's a huge moment. That is literally that literally makes him a legend in the fishing circle. But here's the thing. Again, show of hands. Who caught the Bassmaster Classic on ESPN? Not a single person in here. So the point is that if we were listening to our customers, and if you guys had ever been on Carhartt.com, or he had engaged with ads, or he'd been on our, and I gotta tell you, it's a pretty cool, hip brand at the moment. If you had been there, that might not be the content that relates to you. Maybe it's this content that relates to you. Does anyone think this is a little bit more relatable in this room? It's a woman, she just gave birth, she's a blogger, she's got like a digital job, but she spends her weekends with this really cute dog named Rue, and she has a greenhouse, and she also is living the Carhartt lifestyle. But Jordan Lee fans and Lady and Rue fans are not the same people. We need to sell to them differently. And I'll tell you, what it really comes down to is that not only is it enough to take all that ugly transactional stuff, but you need to take that beautiful romantic stuff that happens to really endear you to the brand and sell to you, all right? For us, at the tactical level, I think the easiest one that we say around the office that can, I think, bring home the point is that you can't sell the same stuff in Maine that you do in Miami. For us, selling a jacket in the middle of December to someone in Michigan, check, we've got it, and we've been doing it for 100 years. But selling a jacket in even February in Florida, that's really hard to do. But we've got all these other products. We've got those 400 other SKUs that we could be leveraging and that we're not leveraging. And so what we identified was that what we needed to do was we need to be much more personal with our content. And that, in effect, that omni-personal thing was our omni-channel solution in that to prove to that customer that we are listening to them, we're going to give them the right products at the right time, and that we're going to allow them to engage. So we set out, this is a mission thing that we set out for. And we said, well, how are we going to get personalized? We worked with, we set out like RFPs. We ended up working with this company named Evergage. They happen to be here. They're a great partner. You guys should consider them. But effectively, it boils down to, they helped us do 3 things. And as I need to flip because I want to make sure I get the wording right, they helped us learn, 1, what we think we know, 2, what we know to get leveraged, and 3, what we want our customers to know. 3 distinct efforts. So personalize and synchronize, then lean into what we think we know, what we know, and what we want our customers to know. And I'm going to give you some results of how those actual campaigns worked and some sort of how it evolved organically in our organization. All right. So the first thing we did to get better at what we think we know, we got way better at A/B testing. Who in here does a lot of A/B testing? All right, if you don't, here is the reason to believe in this. I saw a transformation in our organization, or even if you're just kind of dipping a toe in the water of A/B testing, here's the reason that's a big deal. We had conversations in our building with guys like an art director who, and our art director is, probably spends half the year in the middle of, like literally right now they are in, they're in Death Valley filming a thing for super hot weather. And then they do things that are in the mountains. They are literally in these rugged environments. And he's kind of a super uber masculine type of dude. And he's not into nuanced conversation is all I'll leave about that guy's personality. And so we have debates on, lifestyle versus flats or story versus selling. And he's like, I want my image up on the homepage. Why the hell is it not on the homepage? And so when I have those debates with those guys like that, one of the biggest things that A/B testing allows for me to do is say, let's do both. Yes, I will do that. And we're going to do the thing that I think statistically, in this nuanced way, from looking at past year's data and being a geek about, figuring out the numbers on stuff, is probably going to work a little bit better. And so to get buy-in, here's, I think, the biggest tactic, and this will seem super simple, but we do quarter betting. There is no better way to get your executives or your team members to participate and actually give a crap about what's happening on the web than to put a quarter on it, and it's just a quarter. And so what it means, literally, we'll make 2 posters. Poster A, here's how it looks. Poster B, here's how it works. And there's 2 little, I think they were originally had hummus in them or something. It's like a little plastic container, and you put your quarter in your name in the bucket that you want, and you put a quarter on the line, and then the person who predicts the best number or predicts the one, they split the quarters. And nobody more than me wants that junior kid from accounting to win that thing. And you get this whole other audience that's participating in your A/B tests. It's phenomenal. Consider quarter betting. All right. So here's some stuff that happened for us. Number one thing we did was, up in the upper right for you guys, we did people were saying, hey, I think it would be great if we pointed people to our stores, our actual corporate retail stores. So one part of Evergage's technology is that You can detect location from a point in space. So if you're within 35 miles, we will say specifically, hey, there's a store in your area, and go check it out. Controversial in the building because you say, why would we send web traffic who we pay to get there just to go back out to the store? And the store people are like, yes, please do that. We want that to do that. It's a little bit of a get along moment. Now here's the shocker, that when we do that, when we on e-com do that, we saw an 18% conversion rate lift amongst visitors who clicked into local stores. And that seems counterintuitive. We sent you away, and you stayed here and converted. We gave you the opportunity. We told you, there's a store right down the road. What we think that's about is that with the increased confidence that they could go and return it whenever they wanted, they were able to get over the hurdle of, I'll just transact online. They got it. All right, so the other thing that we did is, you can see, and this is more like classic blocking and tackling from a testing standpoint, we looked at recently viewed things, and we put them on a couple different places on our site. And what we saw was a 150% increase in click-through rate in recently viewed campaigns. It was phenomenal for us. Now, keep in mind, we are not Amazon. We're Carhartt. Carhartt has its own set of rules. It's, some of these basic things for the community that's coming to him, this is new concept stuff for us. All right, the next thing we did to learn what we think we know, what we know we know. First one was what we think we know, testing. Now this is what we know we know. We know that our customers are heavily influenced by the weather. We get stories all the time in our focus groups where people come and say, man, I was miserable at work today, and I don't want that again. I need a freaking jacket. I need it overnight to me because I don't want to go back to work until I have a thicker layer to put on. Because our stuff is fundamentally about a utility. Now, one reason I mentioned is that Carhartt makes utilities. If you, say, work for Sugarfina, this awesome company that I met the other day, they're not a utility. They're going to be a luxury, and you can probably sell them anytime. But what we did, we're in a special use case. So if that special use case works, consider this: that when you have a web page, and in the moment, when you know that in their zip code, if it starts raining, if you can show them rain gear, and this is less about the image and more about the link and more about the merchandising of the links that are on that, if you can change the expectations in real time of what is happening locally for that person because you know that they're shopping here as a utility, you're gonna make some pretty dramatic changes. So for us, here's what that did. Did weather personalization results. We had a 23.5% lift in conversion rate over control, and 15.5% lift over average order value over the control. And so what we think that's about is not only being very on point and very in the moment and listening to our customers telling us that we are a utility brand and they're showing up here to purchase a utility to keep them warm or to keep them dry, but it's also about that person who we would have possibly tried to sell a $40 pair of pants now has a prioritized merchandise thing that is a $150 rain jacket. If you're not doing that, for us, that we weren't doing that for so long, this was just an opportunity that we were missing. And the result was 15.5% lift in average order value because they were buying more expensive stuff. All right, any questions as I'm going along here? Yeah, in the back.
So, it knows that in Cincinnati it's raining.
Yes.
And so if I come in from Cincinnati,
Yep.
it changes the view of the website?
Yeah,
That's
right.
amazing.
In the moment that it starts raining. So the Everyday Technology has a thing where they hook into weather.com or AccuWeather, some weather service. We know we have an understanding of where you are from an IP perspective, which matches up to a zip code. In this zip code is raining, then conditional logic shows rain jackets with rain jacket links.
So does it know I'm a woman? Because I just went on the site and it brought up, how does it know?
If you don't, so you have to have previous browsing history for us to understand that you're that you're interested in female products.
Okay.
Which one quick learning, it's for us at the deaggregated level. We can't just say you looked at women's stuff so you necessarily are a woman. We can just say that this is a history thing. I know it's a subtlety, but it plays into some of the more long-term strategy. But yeah, you have to build up a little bit of history for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that also through Evergage, the weather?
Yeah, same platform does that. Right. Okay. Anything else? All right, so that was weather personalization. The last thing, so there was what we think we know, A/B testing. What we know is that our people show up here for weather and utility related reasons. And the last thing is what we want you to know, and that is leveraging merchandising. I think, one interesting thing, so I spent 8 years at Domino's doing like apps and trackers and stuff like that. And so I was I was put on effectively a learning curve to understand what was going on in retail. And I didn't fully understand or appreciate originally the value of what the merchandisers bring, because I thought of it as kind of an algorithm and I can just figure out what the thing to put up. But understanding those local trends and understanding what our people need and understanding what's popular and buying stuff, that is a big deal. It's not the same as like, what's a high fashion brand, like Barney's maybe. I don't know, clearly I'm a Carhartt guy, so I'm not super into fashion. But those guys leveraging their knowledge of how to shift the product to give someone something that's a little bit more relatable, we leverage that into a unique opportunity by examining past purchase history. Our guy, we know that they are a creature of habit. Remember that story of that guy buying the same thing for 100 years? That happens. They buy like clockwork, they struggle to stray. We use our merchandising crew to suggest complementary products and educate, and we help them complete an outfit. But effectively, what we're helping to do is we're helping to nudge these 70-year-old farmers who've been wearing the same thing. Get out of your box and here's a new thing. So if you show up for a shoreline jacket, which again, the reason that this is omni-channel is that this is quintessentially part of the transactional process. And whether this happens on your mobile site or whether it's on your desktop site or even eventually, and we're not quite there yet, but when you get it into your Facebook site or your Instagram site, we want to show you things that are relevant to you and then extend the process into say things like things that you might also like or things that will help you complete the look, which have a couple different varieties. One, it could just be adding the complementary pants that are in the original PDP photo, or it could be throwing a hat on there that we know is selling really well in your region, or it could be adding the jacket. We do a lot of good stuff with that. We also tell people what else is relevant in your area. If you live in a farming community, you know what else is there? Lots of other farmers that are doing the same thing. If you live in a welding community, you know what else is there? Probably lots of other people. I live in Detroit. I live not that far from like smokestacks and people welding and big cauldrons of metal that are making steel frames for cars. There's a bunch of welders that live in my neighborhood. They're doing good stuff. So when we do that, we were able to leverage cross-sells and in Carhartt and drove a 5% lift in click-through rate. We were able to get a positive lift in conversion rate and AOV in category level recommendations. And we were able to get a 4.5% click-through rate on PDP recommendations with a 7 to 10% conversion rate from clicks. All right? So those are the 3 learnings. And really, you can take our examples, but ultimately, I think the 2 things, we synchronize and personalize. We questioned what we think we know, what we know, and what we want the customers to know. We educated them. All right. Thank you very much.
Nicely done.
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take questions. Carhartt stuff.
Yeah, we have another 5 minutes of time, so who wants to start with questions?
Yeah, right here.
So you said that Carhartt's known primarily for like 4 products. Are you guys trying to expand beyond 4 products and like go in the athletic leisure wear type market? Or are you just trying to stay in a niche and just use the tools that you said, the merchandising strategies to kind of just focus there?
So a little bit of both. So when I say 4 products, what I mean is a specific pant called the B101s and a specific hat called the A18 and a specific shirt called the K87. I mean 4 SKUs. And we sell these 100 things. And if you look at the category, you look at if you plot out on a bar graph, like what do we sell? It goes these 4 things and then everything swoops way down. And what we want to do is we want to level that thing off. And a large part of that is, having stuff that we have a technology that's similar to Climate Cool and leverages something called 37.5, which is a fabric that's in a couple of different things. But yada yada, something that would be really relevant to someone who lives in Southern Florida or Southern California or Texas, or someone who needs the sweat wicking stuff to get off them. So we're not necessarily looking to get into athletics, but we want to serve every worker as opposed to that guy who's clearing snow and welding in northern Michigan. That guy, we've got him, all right? And we know his dad told us about it. I think that the challenge there is to make sure that he tells his kids and makes it still relevant for his kids. But we're also we have this opportunity that we're becoming fashion brand is not the right word, but people in fashion circles who frequently like us. We've partnered with 47. It's like a hat making company. They do like all the MLB hats. We have some other partnerships coming up that I can't talk about, but like really cool progressive brands that wouldn't necessarily be, that it would be harder to see without a story that we're going to tell, to see how that they overlap. But so I think we have that opportunity to bleed out. But no, I think the core, we've got 100, almost 30 years into hardcore workwear, and I think we're going to keep rolling that train. Yeah.
Did you do A/B testing before you partnered with Evergage? How critical were they to your decision to do that?
We did it before I got there. I got there. We had the Adobe product. I did not like the Adobe product, nor did I like how Adobe was treating us, and I said, let's get a different product. So we did it poorly a bunch of times in a row, and then we did it well after we reorganized and got a new set of tools and new people and new skill sets.
Right. So follow up?
Yeah.
How involved are they in your ongoing strategy planning? Are they now just the platform?
They
or
Evergage?
do they help you plan your testing?
Oh yeah, they Evergage. They have a call every week with them. 3 different calls, a loyalty call, a merchandising call, and a site content call. And they help us strategize and are there for, like, we have questions on how to implement stuff. They're right there. Matter of fact, they'll build us templates out and so that we can do it 100 times over, and they did the original one that works out really well. We have like a junior developer on our team, kind of, she spent her whole life kind of working in a store and is now doing development stuff, took some classes, kind of a mid-career change. She can configure stuff. We have people in our merchandising crew who went to the Fashion Institute of Technology that are configuring A/B tests and merchandising things online through these recipes. It's not a technical hurdle. It's the what to do.
Yeah.
That's the hurdle that you can partner with and know your brand and then know how the tool works. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have, and it's digital focused, but is there continuative experience into the stores?
Yeah. So yes and no. I'll admit we're going to do better of it over time, but we're starting to get better with things like you'll see, like when you come in here, you'll see relevant promotions and relevant characters that are coming in. If there's something that, we had that Jason Momoa video, which was so cool. Really go check it out. Just, if you're a father, it's going to be a tearjerker. If you're a mother, you'll probably pause on the scene where he's shirtless. But and that stuff, we carry that stuff through to our store, but a lot of it originates and lives its longest life online. Because we only have 30 corporate stores. We're in 5,000 doors in the United States, but it's only 30 corporate doors where we can have that direct influence. So obviously the store is going to be bigger online. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.